Hello, everyone. Today I'll be presenting to you about tips to managing English learners in the classroom. My name, of course, is Miss Lewis, and I'm the ESOL teacher at Newbern Middle School. We're going to start with a quote by Benjamin Franklin. It says, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn." I want you to remember to involve your ESOL students. In order for them to learn, they have to be involved in the classroom, whether virtual or face to face. What is ESOL? I will not read this quote verbatim, but these are the statements, and it's about the ESOL program that was provided by Valdosta City Schools. This was taken from the website. Make sure that you understand what is the ESOL program and what it looks like and our goals for our students. My role as the ESOL teacher. My job is to make sure I instruct and develop the English learners in the classroom. English learners we refer to as ELs, and you'll see that throughout this presentation. I want to make sure I'm able to assist the content teachers to modifying their assignments so they're able to reach the English language learners. I also want to make sure to collaborate with you all to make sure we meet the needs of our ELs. Collaboration. How can we collaborate? Well, I made a Google form so that you can just update me to let me know if you have a student that is struggling. And I'll show you what that form looks like. This form is simply entitled Help. On this form, I'm asking that you put your name. This form simply says Help. And on this form, I'm asking that you put your name, the student's name, their grade, and then what is your concern? So what is it that they need help in? Whether it's division, whether it's the Civil War, alliteration, science, whatever it is, just simply put what it is. And you can send me a lesson plan or an assignment that they're struggling with. So while they're in my class, I'm able to help them. Your students see me 90 minutes a day, every other day. So make sure that you're able to get the most out of what you need from me for your students by just providing me with what they need help with while they're in my class. So, ESOL students right now. In sixth grade, we have 8 students. In seventh grade, we have 13 students. And in eighth grade, we have 15 students. Most of these students are from Guatemala. Not all of them, but some of them are. But all of our students right now that we have here are Spanish speaking. Next, we're going to go into proficiency levels. A lot of you guys asked yesterday as I brought around the accommodation forms, what does a proficiency level look like? So what does a level 1 student look like compared to level 2 and level 3 and so forth? For our proficiency levels, our students take something called the access test. It tests them in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. What I provided for you are the can-do descriptors for these students. For example, for listening, this table shows you what your student should be able to do as far as listening in your classroom. A level 1 student can only listen and really understand one-step oral commands and instructions. They can match social language with visual and graphic displays. So that means they need a lot of pictures and visuals in the classroom to understand what you're talking about. They can identify objects, people, and places from oral statements, questions using gestures. So if you're asking a question, pointing to what you're asking helps them. They can also match instructional language with visual representation. Use a sharpened pencil. Also, you're looking at the level 2 and level 3. We don't have a lot of level 4, level 5, and level 6 students that are still within our ESOL program. So these students will be just in your classrooms and they will not be getting ESOL services. The next one is for speaking. So what does a student who is a level 1 look like with speaking? They can answer yes and no choice questions. So if your tests are very complicated and have a whole lot of words, they may not do very well on those tests because they may not understand this information. These students generally understand the high frequency vocabulary. So think back to those high frequency words. That is what they understand. They also know things like who, what, when, where, and how. So those things they can do as well. Compared to a level 3 student for speaking, they're able to retell phrases and stories. They're able to state their opinions, and they're able to state the big and main ideas. They're also able to ask for clarification. So your level 3 students are the students that can say, hey, I need help. I'm self-monitoring myself. They wouldn't say that, but they're self-monitoring. So they're able to know, hey, I'm not understanding this. I need to ask a question. For reading, this shows you for level 1 through 6 what those students can be able to read and what they can be able to understand. So your level 1 students, they can understand common symbols, signs, and words. They can match things. They can associate letters, sounds, and objects. Compared to your level 3 student, they can identify a topic, sentence, main idea, details, and paragraphs, identify multiple meanings of words, cell, table. So these students will benefit from your screencastify. Your level 1 student will probably need a Google Meet lesson compared to a level 3 student. So they will really need for you to show them what you want them to do compared to just telling them. And then the last content area is writing. For writing, this shows you what they're going to be able to produce for you when you give them assignments. A level 1 student will use high frequency words. They may get better off by asked to draw something instead of actually write something, because what they're going to write is going to be very minimal. Now, for their writing for a level 3 student, they should be able to produce short paragraphs with main ideas and some details, create compound sentences, explain steps and problem solving, compare and contrast, and give opinions, preferences, and reactions along with reasons. So those students should be able to function okay in your classroom. And it may not be very in-depth, but they do understand what you're asking them to do. Mandatory requirements. What do we require of you all? There are some accommodation forms that you all signed, and I will get you a copy of those forms, and I've sent you an email with a spreadsheet of those accommodations that are the students that need in your classroom. So the setting accommodations, most of them just need small group. And for presentation accommodations, these students may need things explained and paraphrased for them in English only, and oral reading tests and questions in English only. There are some apps or some add-ons that you can add on to the Chromebook that will read to them. I spoke with some teachers, and they said their program that it used to test does read out loud. It has that function, but these questions and tests can only be read in English. So you cannot use Spanish or any other language for these tests. We will get some word to word dictionaries in, and once we get those, I will pass those out to the students to use in your classrooms. And a lot of those students also have extended time as one of their accommodations as well. Other mandatory requirements, there is paperwork for ESOL students. So I will be coming to see each one of your ESOL students just to come and talk to you with them by the end of the 9 weeks. And it's a form we have to fill out to make sure that these students are getting the accommodations in the classroom, and also for me to monitor to see how well they're doing in your classroom. ESOL students are required to learn the same content as other learners. So there are no exceptions to the content for the students. It's just that content has to be modified to fit the students' learning abilities. Accommodations may be adjusted as needed. If you have students in your classroom that do not need accommodations that we have recommended for them at the beginning of the semester, please let me know. So if the student does not need frequent breaks, or they do not need extended time anymore, if these students are doing very well, then those accommodations can be updated. Instructional practices, ways that you can accommodate in everyday classrooms. Communicating with EL. So this screen, this particular slide looks very wordy, so I won't read it verbatim, but I do want to give you overall what you can do. Greeting ELs. When it's time to greet ELs, when you're first coming into the classroom, what do you say? Well, of course, hola, ¿cómo estás? That just means hello, how are you? You do not have to say that, but waving your hand when you say hello and smiling, even though we have masks on, we can see cheekbones rising, letting them know that they are welcome into your classroom is always a great way to start. I've also incorporated this Google form that is just a check for well-being. So in your bell ringers that you provide for your students, you can simply add for your first question how you're feeling, and instead of putting good, bad, those type things, put emojis for the picture. So put a smiley face, a sad face, a sleepy face, whatever it is, put those emojis there so you can just get an overall feel of how all of your students are doing. You don't have to identify only ELs to do this on their bell ringer. You can do this for all students. Everyone is going through a tough time right now during COVID, so it's good to make sure that our students' first need is met, and that's their self-help. This Google form is an example of what someone else is doing. You don't have to do it like this, but I wanted to give you an idea of what this may look like. So this particular person, this is probably an elementary school, they do a beginning of the day check-in, and they just ask for the student's first and last name, how are they feeling, and on the how they're feeling, they have some images here, and it's just, ready to work, happy, sad, sleepy, whatever it is. And then it goes on to tell, is there anything else they need to tell them? This can be about school or life. Were you able to find all your work for today? Do you need help getting started with your assignments? What questions do you have about your assignments? So this is a simple form. You don't have to do a form for like this every day. But this would be helpful just to add this question: how are you feeling today on your bell ringer if you're going to be doing that using the Chromebook? All right, checking for understanding. How can you check for understanding in classroom? Whether in Google Meets or face to face, you can check for understanding using something as simple as thumbs up and thumbs down. You can teach this explicitly during your first week of school and just let students know if they're doing okay and they understand what you're saying to put their thumbs up. And if they do not understand what you're saying, thumbs down. You can do this check in as often as possible with your students. So you're not singling out just your ELs, everyone can do it. But make sure when you're teaching them this, that you, when you do thumbs up, you shake your head yes, so they understand that this means good or okay, I got it. And then thumbs down, this is a no, I don't understand what you're talking about. If that doesn't fit your personality, of course, find something that works best for you. Looking for assignments. So what if I have a student and I have no clue where the assignments are and I don't know if they know that they're supposed to turn something in? When asking a student for assignment, have the assignment readily available to show the student what you're talking about. This will ensure that the student knows what you're asking of them. So if you're asking them, hey, I need this particular assignment, and they're looking at you like, I have no clue what you're talking about, have that assignment available up and ready on your computer just to show them this is what I'm looking for and point to that assignment. Then that student then knows, okay, you're talking about something on the computer. This is what you wanted me to turn in. Hey, I didn't do it, or okay, I did it. And then ask them to show it to you. Explicitly tell students if they have homework while facing the students. I know that at the end of class, a lot of times we're doing other things like erasing the board or, cleaning up maybe a little. And right now, of course, we have to sanitize our rooms. So we may start getting very busy at the end of the day and we may turn away from our students. Remember, we are wearing masks that hinders our voice from being heard for everyone. So make sure that you continue to face your students and speak to them so they understand what you're asking them to do for homework. If you're giving out homework, show them where to go to find that work. And I know this is redundant. You know this, you do this for everyone anyways, but I just want to make sure that I say do it explicitly. So don't do it under the assumption that they already know what to do. Show them what you want them to do. Seating and grouping. So seating in front of the class, close to the teacher. That is a recommendation. It's not mandatory for ESOL students to sit at the front of the class or close to the teacher. This just makes sure that you're watching what they're doing, because if someone doesn't understand the language, I can only imagine being in a classroom I didn't understand. I'm going to start doing other things because what else can I do? ESOL students do have friends. So you're going to see them laughing and talking and playing with other students. And just like any other student who doesn't understand something, they're going to become playful in your classroom and may become a distraction. So sitting them up front and close to you allows you to be able to watch them and identify their needs close. Grouping. There are two types of grouping: homogeneous and heterogeneous. So for homogeneous groups, that means you're grouping ESOL students with just other ESOL students or students who are Spanish speaking. And then your heterogeneous groups may look like you're grouping ESOL students with students that are English native speakers. So you can do either. There's no recommendation for either. You group them together. It makes sure they have a support, someone who can translate for them or help them out on their assignments. If you group them where it's heterogeneous, so you're grouping with a native English speaker, this allows them to be able to practice that academic vocabulary that you're teaching in your classroom. Either way, the common goal is to make sure that the ELs are participating. Participation in group assignments. Think of strategies you can use if students were completing a paper-based group assignment. So for a virtual student or for a student who you have them grouped, you're trying to figure out how to do small group in your classroom, have them do a single Google Docs or Google Slides presentation. Have them add slides and put their name on the bottom. Have them do the Google Docs and write it in a different color so you can identify that they're participating. Do group assignments that way. So if you're talking about a specific country, Asia or something, you can have them all come together. That way you're still getting small group and they're not writing your face in your classroom. Use of cognates. So on one of the slides, they recommended that you use cognates. So what are cognates? Well, what is that? Cognates are words in two languages that share similar meaning, spelling, and pronunciation. All words are not cognates, but 30 to 40% of the English words have a Spanish cognate. So it has a word that looks like that word and sounds like that word when they say it. Examples of this: Here we have the English word vocabulary. And if you look at the Spanish word for vocabulary, the word looks similar. So by using the word vocabulary, and Spanish speaker they may understand, oh, okay, that word is vocabulary because that they have a word that's similar in Spanish. There's no list that you have to memorize in order to use cognates in your classroom. If you are using vocabulary, you are using cognates, so don't worry. However, there are some times that you may say something that's confusing to a Spanish speaking student because they don't understand what you're talking about. An example of this, the Spanish word for the word libreria looks like library, but that particular word means it's a place where you go to purchase books. So if you tell the students, hey, we're going to the library, their assumption may be, I don't have any money. What am I going to do? In English, that word translates to bookshop, meaning that you have to pay for the books. The Spanish word for library is actually biblioteca. This word means library. So for this example, it just shows you that sometimes you may say something in English and the student may assume it means something and that's not what it means. So they are confused by what you are asking or saying to them. Avoid idioms. I know that we all have personalities, and I know that sometimes we may say things that, of course, mean something specific. And for a native English speaker, they understand what you're saying, and it's no problem. But for our EL students, some of those things get very confusing, and they really have no clue what you're talking about. So make sure that when you use those idioms, that you either explain them or that you're able to use something else so they understand and feel included if you're making a joke or comment about something. Build background information. This is for not only EL students, but all students. Always traditions, holidays, and cultures are different for everyone. So make sure when you're talking about something that you just build the background information on a new topic through videos, literature, examples, stories to ensure that they understand what you're talking about. Using videos is one of the best ways. They're able to turn on captions in Spanish or take captions in English. They're able to see what it is you're asking of them. Once you show them and they're able to put their hands on it, they're able to connect to it, they will perform better in your classes. Model, model, model. Showing completed versions of graphic organizers, projects, or assignments is not cheating. It is actually helping them. If you want them to do complete a Venn diagram or a T-chart, show them what it's supposed to look like. For other students, I know they understand Venn diagram. Okay, I'm about to compare and contrast. I'm about to take two different things and I need to tell what's the same in the middle. For an English language learner, they have no clue what you're talking about. Some of them don't. And so they may look at you like, what are you asking me to do? And so now you're looking at a blank screen. So for a Venn diagram, tell them what you want them to do. Show them. You don't have to give them the answers. You can even do a simple example like comparing apples and oranges and showing them. Allow them to use images instead of using words. So if they're comparing two things, find a picture to go there instead of just using, words to do that. Build vocabulary, of course. Word walls, word banks, sentence strips, or starters tell students the words that have more than one meaning. For example, in your classrooms, you may say something like right triangle, and the student may assume, okay, I have to look to the right because that's the only way I've heard that word used is turn right or look right or your right shoe. Students may assume they're looking somewhere. So explicitly teach the academic vocabulary for your classroom so that it makes sense to them. Avoid using pronouns before introducing the subject. Students, okay, turn it on and begin working. What is it? Of course, you said turn the Chromebook on every day. And so they may get into that habit. But in the beginning, make sure you're using specific vocabulary. Turn on your Chromebook and begin to work. Work where? Okay, turn on your Chromebook and begin to work on Google Classroom. That is more specific and allows the student to connect what you're asking of them. Don't assume. Every opportunity you have, point out and teach vocabulary. Monitor your speech. EOs can hear you. No need to speak louder. Masks are taking the ability to see your mouth form words away. So we need to speak slower, but at a normal pace for our students to understand. And of course, repeat, repeat, repeat. A lot of them in their accommodations have repetition of A lot of them have repetition of instructions. So make sure that you repeat instructions for them. In order to repeat instructions, you just simply say it 2-3 times to make sure they understand what they're asking of you. Chunk information. People remember an average of 5 to 7 things at a time. So chunk information when presenting to ELs to allow time to remember what you are teaching. A lot of you are doing this anyways without you even knowing, because your lessons are very short and then you have them actually do something. So you're already chunking information. Visuals are very important. Use pictures, videos as often as possible to show ELs what you're saying in a different way. Advise students to use subtitles on their videos in their native language to help them understand the material. Just remember, when they test, they're going to be tested in only English. So don't make it so where they're comfortable to using that, and then when they're tested, they don't get that same accommodation. Virtual manipulative. So these are just some examples of things that you can do. I won't click through all of them, but I just want you to know that these are some things that you can go to in order to have some manipulatives you can use in your classroom. I didn't see anything specifically for social studies, but I did speak with one of the wonderful social studies teachers, Miss Abigail Smith, and she has some awesome things planned for the social studies classroom. So make sure that you just look at your lessons and see what you've added that can help with videos, pictures, things like that. Chrome extension. There's a Chrome extension called Read Aloud. This Chrome extension, you don't necessarily have to have this because there are other ways to have your computer read to you. But this is one extension that I was told by one of our colleagues that is very beneficial. So because it just takes the information on the screen and it'll read it aloud to them. English to Spanish tools. Of course, you can use Google Translate. A lot of teachers I have heard don't like to use Google Translate in the classroom, but Translate is a good one if you want to change your lesson so that it's in English and Spanish. I don't recommend you doing this only because the students still have to test in English. So teaching them and allowing them to use Spanish all the way up into the test and then only testing them in English, I mean, let's be honest, it's not really doing them a huge justice when it's time to take those tests. So getting them as familiar with the vocabulary as possible is beneficial, but you can translate using Google Translate for your students. Other translating tools, of course, you have voice typing tool with Google Docs, so you can translate documents. Also, talking points. I've been using talking points to talk to parents. This particular is an app, or you can use it with the computer, and you can send text messages to parents. And this app translates the message for you. You don't have to do anything. The parent can respond in Spanish or whatever language they speak, and when they respond to you, it's going to translate it to English for you, so you can communicate back and forth. It shows up as a phone number. So they'll have that phone number and can save it and communicate with you later. Say Hi is another app that you can use. It talks in real time, so you can just say what you're going to say in English. It translates it to Spanish, and then they're able to understand. They speak into the phone, and they say it in Spanish, and they translate it to English. Google Translate does the same thing. Google Translate does it for documents, voice talking, or, simply typing in what you're trying to say. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation. If you have any questions, of course, you can reach me at my email, jenay.lewis@gocats.org. If you have anything that you need from me throughout the semester, please, please, please reach out so that I can help you help our students have the best year yet.